Actually, when did you actually start filming season 7? Was it?
We started season 7 like in April, something like that. It was one of those. I feel like this is like a rollover kind of season because we finished season 6. Season 6 was the longest season in history. Let's just put it that way. We started shooting and then pandemic hit, and then we actually shot that season in a year. What is it? It was like a year and a half. We started in 2019 and
Mm,
finished it 2021 this year
yeah,
because
definitely.
we
So
had
that's like,
7 months off, which is like way too long, right? To be playing a role, and it was quite an intense one. So we couldn't have our 4 months hiatus to start season 7. So we had only a few weeks off, honestly.
yeah. So how did it affect the plans of, the original shoot, for example, the first part of season 6? Was there any kind of big change in terms of what was supposed to be done? I mean, obviously the filming schedule was all over the place after that, but
You
things that they
you know, we got really lucky because before season 6 was always planned to be like an anthology. It was always planned to have one character with we will have John Doe's story. So it was just like, because we needed to go deeper into each one of the characters. So season 6 was already planned that way. It was very COVID friendly from the beginning, from before COVID. So it was very odd, like how when COVID happened, we were trying to figure out how we're going to return, and the protocols of like, oh, we cannot have 7 actors in front of the camera, for example. That was one of the things we couldn't have, like, so, but we were not doing that already. We were already like going, so it kind of rolled perfectly well. So we didn't have that rearrangement of storytelling, those scenes, the battling scenes, killing, everybody together. We didn't have that, not even planned last year. So it kind of worked out. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, and so with the show Fear the Walking Dead compared to The Walking Dead itself, there seems to be a lot of changes of set, right? I mean, in terms of the places that you shot from season 1 at the beginning, Los Angeles, going to Mexico for a while and then going back along to Texas. And, yeah, right.
Yeah, we really have been traveling a lot. I mean, I'm just really glad that we're here. We said, I mean, it takes a lot to kind of rearrange a story to another country, to another city, and even story-wise, like it's really takes a lot of like, how do you get here? You have to reestablish an entire backstory for the characters every time you start in a new state or town or whatever. Yeah, The Walking Dead, fair enough. They've been there for 10 years solid, no moving. It's like it's really easy on the actors too. But interestingly enough, as much as it was really tough and all that, I really love that we had this journey. I really like that. When you look back, you can see us in Mexico, and this doesn't happen in television. It's really broad, like bold to be like, let's go to Mexico, let's go to Texas. It's like, it's really cool. And so, as it's worth it. It's tough, but it was tough, but it's been really worth it. It sets us apart from the rest for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you look back at the broader canvas of all the characters you've come across and all, like, the kind of the set pieces, I guess, that people look back to. And even in
Absolutely.
season 6, yeah, with all the special effects, it was very impressive once it does settles. Yeah.
And also, culture, it's so important. Like when the apocalypse was taking place in Mexico, it was a different tone. Even though it's the same universe, the culture was like, we're Mexico, this is their rules, how do they see the dead? And this is when Luciana showed up. Mexico, the Mexican culture has a very interesting relationship with the dead. Like, they celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So they just don't run away from it. They're not afraid. They just use them to survive. So culturally, like, it was very rich and strong and beautiful. And Texas, they have another relationship with the dead. Like, it's guns, and it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so even cultural wise in the apocalypse, it's like, it's really gives flavors, and like you said, like, it's like it's like a beautiful canvas that
Mm.
that is being painted in front of us. It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. And when you look back at Lucy's character as herself, what are the main things that you think changed about her from season two? I mean, about her personality and interactions, things like that.
You know, I think when she met Nick, and Nick was very troubled about what was happening, and she was very confident into like, what is wrong with you? This is, you know, this is the way we survive and all that. I think she now realizes that there are parts of Nick that she really didn't understand, and now she gets them. That this is a very dangerous world. It's a world that, you know, so many people have been gone, so many losses, so many um, so just so much has happened that she's now understanding how Nick was when she first met him. You know, Nick was a broken teenager. Like he was a child of the apocalypse by choice. He was an orphan basically by choice. Like he chose to be alone, and that is really what she's going through right now. She's basically that she has this kind of orphan kind of rawness to it. And I think each one of the characters, we all have that in ourselves. We've been doing this for so long, and it's really interesting because now that we've been living the apocalypse, the pandemic for a while, and you know, you start seeing people kind of, you know, like the danger part of, we don't know how we're going to survive this. Now we know the vaccine, so now, but we're in another stage of this exhaustion and tiredness. And I feel like these roles in the apocalypse, they just been 3 years of that, of layers of survival that is not the same, because we've learned how to do it better, but it doesn't take the fact that it really changes you from the inside, and you become more lonely and receptive, and she's changed a lot of that layers that she never had before.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed back in the second season, she was quite guarded when she first met Nick, you know, and then if you fast forward on to season five with her interactions with the children, there's kind of a different, I
Yeah,
guess, kind of feeling to her personality. Yeah, that's it.
totally.
Yeah, and then what about the rest of, say, the Walking Dead universe? Have you been keeping up with like the spin-off, the main show? It's pretty hard to do, right?
You know, it's really hard to do, but I'm very tempted because I know the actors. You see, like when you work on a show for so long, I mean, you meet each other at Comic Con, you kind of like see each other around because we live in the same universe. And the thing is that when Morgan showed up to our world, I was like, and then Dwight, you know, Lenny and Austin, Emilio, I just realized, you know, it's really dangerous for me to fall in love with these roles from the other universe. Like some actors, they decided to like watch everything they've done so they know this character. I chose not to, because I mean, this the thing about this universe is that everybody's so defined and everybody's so interesting that naturally you're gonna, at least I would like perceive that, and I would be naturally curious about who this person is and what this character does. Where have you been? What have you been through? So if I get to know them before, I will lose that kind of spark of like looking at them at any time that I'm not even saying, like even my approach to understanding somebody that is unknown, I didn't want to kill that. So I had the time and chance to watch it, but what if they come to our universe or I go to their universe? I don't want to be like, oh yeah, like I want to be naturally surprised and taken, and I want to be kind of like the fans. I want to be the audience. I really did. With Morgan was really hard because Lenny Morgan, he was in the first episode, and I went to the premiere of The Walking Dead in LA. So I watched his relationship with the son and the wife. I watched the pilot, and he was there, and kind of like a huge story part of his life was in that episode. So I was like, oh man, I kind of know what happened to you. But again, you know, as you, it's been so long that he's been through so much, and that's the part that I every time I have Morgan next to me with the stick and all that, it's like this guy, you can sense it. And Lenny's such an incredible actor that Lenny's one of those guys that when the cameras are not rolling, he just throw his perfect natural English accent. And the moment they say action, he just goes to this perfect American Southern accent where Morgan is from. And it just happens in seconds. So when you have an actor that goes to, like relaxes and is himself and all that, I really don't want to know much more. I just want to keep it beautiful and surprised and incredible. We have beautiful actors, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want it to change your interaction, like you said, with characters that you want to
I
perceive being
don't.
for the first time.
Yes. I mean, wouldn't you want that? Like if you wouldn't, you don't research, like they're already like so full of so much. It's like, and I feel like it's been so much fun to get them. Like when Dwight showed up in our world and he's like, I'm looking for my wife. Everybody kind of knew what the wife looked like because they knew Sherry. I had no idea, no clue. So I was just like I have remember looking at scenes back and I have moments that he's like looking for my wife and I look at Alicia and I'm like, what the like what do you mean he's looking for his wife? Like what? How long has she, like, are we going to the same John and June again? Like John is looking for his, and it's like it was that kind of, it was very cool. I love that. It kept me wondering about this guy. And then when she showed up, I'm like, oh my God, that's the wife. So
Yeah, and it kind of shows you the possibility of, what going to different shows and spin-offs can do, because I guess Sherry in the original show, she was only in a few episodes, so she's already a much more major player in Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh wow, I didn't know that, really.
Probably should have told you, but yeah.
You're spoiling it already.
But that's how it is. Yeah, and you can kind of see how much detail is in the shows when you see things that the fans do. They're drawing maps of how like all three shows connect, and the movies that supposedly Andrew Lincoln is doing. Yeah,
That's the thing too. Like, there's a lot of like, secrets here and there. And there's a lot of like, we've been through places that other people have been before. And I don't want to know that. I really want to keep everything my journey from my, even as an actor, like I want to know this is my first place. And if when this is over, maybe I will watch the whole thing and I will have another experience with the show. And I love that as an actor. I feel like we're having, this is a dream job, and it's a job that in television you don't get to live this universe every day. Like you just don't. And I've been so lucky to be on it for years now, and being able to produce and give beautiful content during really challenging times in our world, and working with amazing actors, and all the secrets and things that come with it. It's like such a bonus. I don't want to spoil it. Like watching everything.
yeah. There's always time for that. And then outside of
There is.
obviously shooting, you're doing a lot of things with your podcast, and you've got production,
I
direction.
know.
Yeah, so you're keeping
Yes.
extremely busy.
I'm keeping very busy. I am actually, to even make it even crazier, I just I'm taking a class in college. I joined college.
Oh,
Which is
nice.
like I have my glasses in front of me because I've been like studying because everything is on Zoom. So I'm like, oh, what? Okay, it's crazy. But I have this beautiful podcast. It's called the Danay Garcia podcast that it started in that same month's period that we were not working last year. I was doing karaoke and chats live because I feel like when I was born and raised in a country that it's all about singing, dancing, warmth, flowers, ocean. So I was like, what can you always contribute to people? Music touches your soul. Like with even our show without music, it's not the same. Like you need that kind of connection. And I was just singing and chatting and talking about how to make things better for us, take care of your environment while you're home, your family. And all of a sudden I created this community that was always there. But because I work so many hours a day on the show, I haven't been able to be closer to them. So when we got back to work on Fear on season 6, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this beautiful group of people that are like, we have this beautiful connection. So I decided to like, take it to the next level, to do a podcast. And now we don't sing, but we chat. I bring people and I just basically tell them, you have to treat your life like a garden. You can plant things, but if you don't take care of it, if even if the plant grows, if you don't really look after it, the deer will come and eat it. Snowstorm will come, and it's like, even if you plant it and took care of it, like, you still have to help them adapt and adjust to life. And I feel like that's who we are. Even though we take care of each other, we have to constant adapt and change to environment, to the pandemic, to work. And so I feel like every time I bring someone, they talk about how things worked out for them. And it's been beautiful to put it out together. I've learned so much. I love my guests, and people can look it up and official danaygarcia.com, which is my website, official website, or any podcast, Danay Garcia podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, cast, iRadio. It's like 7 platforms. You can look it up on my website. So so that was a project that, during this difficult times, reaching out to like doctors to talk about anxiety, other Harvard professors to talk about resilience. It's all about how can we be better. I interviewed Garrett Dillahunt, our John Dory, Karen Davis, she played Grace, and Chill plays Wendell. Like, even my friends, the actors, like, I get to know them on a different level. Things that what we're shooting we can't talk about, like, because it's a different, it's a different kind of like world. Like, you're like 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't just have these deep conversations with anyone. So being able to share that with my community has been so beautiful and empowering and enriching everybody's kind of inner garden, and I've also been writing this wonderful project that I can't talk much, but I feel like, now more than ever, we have to, and you tell me what you think, we have to really keep ourselves curious. We have to keep ourselves evolving. We have to, if you always wanted to paint now, let it out. It's like your soul is rich, is screaming for attention. It's like, I feel like when we get hungry, we eat, our bodies are letting us know that we need to eat. But I feel like our connection to the arts or projects is really our soul telling us, you need to put this out. It's also feeding your inner self and others too. So don't you feel that that's kind of been an experience, or you had a different one?
No, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's good, especially the way you're talking about doing creative things, that you can look back at 2020 and say, I started a podcast, I put out content, I made people happy, I connected. Yeah, because I'm based in Asia, so it was kind of a different experience here than the West, I guess, in terms of, reaction to the pandemic and how the country's adapted, and people just have a completely different mindset. Yeah. I mean, it feels
Right.
more than a different country sometimes. It can feel like another planet.
Well,
Yeah.
here too, it's everything has changed so much that unless you have some control over what you can do to contribute either to yourself or others, then whatever changes you go through, at least you can still have your own world that you can stand on to your 2 feet, because things are going way too fast.
Yeah, definitely. But like you said, because of travel and restrictions and everything else, you weren't able to meet people in person, but maybe you've connected with more people in a different way. And I guess like friends,
Exactly.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. We definitely are resilient humans, and history shows that. I mean, this is now, thanks to technology, we're able to even do this interview and talk about, experiences with even my work, like even me working on a show that is in the apocalypse, shutting down that show to deal with this massive crisis worldwide, pandemic wise. It was just quite an experience, because if I was doing a show that has to do with office work or whatever, this would have felt different. But my show, it's about life and death, survival, water, each other. Like it's like it's a trust, humans. It's a show that talks about the dead, but it's really focused on the living, not the dead. The dead is just decoration, really, at this point. So right now and also another thing is that if let's say that I wrap the show, like the show is done, and then 2 years later the pandemic happened, it would have been another different experience. But we're living a pandemic as I'm shooting this show, and it has been such a weird reality, like, because I
Yeah,
feel like we changed too when we got back.
yeah, it definitely takes on a whole new meaning, like you said, in the pandemic, doing this type of show, and like, yeah, the meanings that
Yes,
happen.
it's like putting blood in your face after living a 7 months pandemic stuck at home has felt completely different than. First of all, that's the longest I've been without putting dirt on my face, because usually our hiatus are like 3 months. This one was a 7 months break, because we couldn't do anything. So this was the longest I've been since I started the show that I haven't wore blood, kill zombies, gore, explosions and dirt, and it's the longest. So it was kind of strange coming back and having those protocols of not touching each other, no hugging, no separation, social distance, shields, goggles, masks, with the whole thing on top of the work that we had to do. It was we were different people, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And when you compare Fear the Walking Dead to other projects that you've done, in terms of, I mean, obviously there's more, like you said, preparation, kind of prosthetics, things like that in this show. But a lot of your kind of background stuff, I guess, has been action based anyway, right? I mean, even if you go back to
Yes,
Prison
I
Break.
yes, I Prison Break was all action, and I did this. I just wrapped. I did right before pandemic. I did two movies. I did one called Spiked, and I did another one that is called Baby Money, that is coming out towards the end of August. I played a stripper that gets pregnant and she has no money, so she has to find the money for the baby. It's called Baby Money. And of course, everything goes wrong. And the entire movie, I have this massive belly. And I'm like, it's like, it was a lot of work, but it has some comedy. It's very thriller, crazy thriller, and everything goes wrong. But, she's a strong woman, so she gets what she needs to have this child. And this movie is coming out, and yeah, it was very physical, but it's nothing like this apocalypse. But I like my roles, women's roles, to be, everybody tells me, Danay, you always play badasses. Like, how do you do that? How do you attract this badass woman? And I just think that just being a woman is just, you're already a badass. Like, you just have to be a woman. Men's are badasses too. But I never think of my roles as less strong, more strong. I think that we all struggle differently, and I think that we all filter the world differently, and judging characters, whether they're strong, badasses, it's definitely missing a massive point when you interpret them. So I always, even when my role is like, this character is losing, she's losing with strength, she's losing because she doesn't know any better. Even when she makes mistakes, it's like the approach to mistakes is different when you are really doing your best and then you fail, and that's, it's not about the mistakes, it's about how you handle it while you're like falling and crashing in the journeys of roles. And Luciana's been through so many of them, and people only think of her as a badass, but she's been through so much. But the way you handle the waves of life, it's really what makes all the difference. And I'm very grateful that, first of all, I get to be an actor, that I get to contribute through women's roles, and especially in the apocalypse, I represent the Latino community in this world. It's as a woman, it's very just precious to me, and all these roles that I've done. It's I always try to think of how can I give the best of me with the circumstances of this person. And all I care about is understanding the role. So yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the balance as well between all the roles, and actually being, they mentioned about being Latina, people really enjoyed your scene with Daniel Salazar, Ruben Blades in the last episode. It's
Yes,
kind of, yeah, even those
it
small
was really
interactions, just really
sweet.
well played. Yeah,
It was really sweet when we had to speak Spanish, because like you're living overseas, so when you see somebody that speaks your language, it's like such a joy, such a connection. You don't even know who that person is. It could be a bad person, good person, doesn't matter, but it speaks your language. And I had that when I first came to America. I didn't speak English, and anytime I would just go anywhere, and I would see somebody has an accent that you can tell that he has some Spanish in that. You just switch, and you switch, like, oh no, you're like, hey, it's just a necessity to connect, to speak, and to be. And I wanted to have that there, and people felt it, which is nice. And plus Ruben is like such an extraordinary person. So working with him has it's been like a dream come true. He's really a legend in our community for sure.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's been on my radar for a while because my dad listens to his music. So
Oh,
yeah,
does he?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like even as a child, I remember the name Ruben Blades being like, it's really well,
Right. I was
yeah,
gonna say that. Like my parents, I mean, like everybody was like, he's like our James Bond. Like he's just like our, guy that comes like in a Latino world, and then he just then becomes, runs for politics in Panama, and then he's an attorney from Harvard, and then he wins Grammys, and now he's killing zombies. It's like, what else can he do?
yeah. And it's hard to strike the balance that he does because like at times he can look like a kind of cuddly grandfather with his cat, and then you realize that he's like a military soldier, like gone on all these overseas operations. Yeah.
Totally. But I think one of the things to that Ruben has really accomplished so well, Matt, going from one extreme to the other when it comes to storytelling and business and politics and school. I think everything is one thing for him, and that's something I have learned. Like it's all about contribution, really. Like his contribution to his social, to his country has been through politics, through education, through really connecting with others, which is also a part of acting. Like we really wanted to connect. The moment I heard about this podcast, I'm like, I wanted to connect with whoever is on the other side, and that was his way to connect in Panama. As an actor, as a musician, all his music, it's about a message. It's about connecting to the people. Yes, music like the metal, the orchestra works, but definitely his songs that he's written, they're like chronicles, they're letters to society, to for them to think, to feel heard. And also in this apocalypse is like, what a character Daniel Salazar is, like represents the past, the present, the future, how he handles the lies, the mystery. So it's kind of like a beautiful combination that it's hard to see, but if you really look at it and read his music and understand what he does and what he reads, his website, it's all connected to one little string, and being able to connect those dots is really special.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really impressive, the performance, like you mentioned, and it's a tricky balancing act, right? That he
It's a
kept all
tricky
of this.
balance. Who would have think that politics, music, and acting will be like so connected? Only Ruben can do that. It's great.
Yeah, but I mean, like looking forward to the future, you're already doing a lot of things with ambition. So I guess like there are
Yes.
still a lot of things that you would like to do, right, going forward.
I think my podcast is connected to telling stories, hearing others out, and contributing to people's, evolution, growth, myself included. I think the characters that I attract is all about how can I really shine a light on a woman's world, for girls, for guys, for every generations. My parents, there's stuff that my parents' generation think of, like how we should perceive things that are completely not right. But it's through a character that can really connect and be like, oh, that's really interesting. And also, I'm studying digital marketing now in college, and it's like what is digital marketing is how to be able to kind of put out stories. How can I reach other people, the people that are not looking for this message but need it? And yeah, it's all very different. And also writing projects. I'm currently writing a movie, and it's all that, it's all connected. So I kind of see myself needing this kind of, you know, things out. That's why I feel like this pandemic now more than ever really has called something inside me that feels that I need to put out. And also it kind of helps that, you know, you're stuck at home, and you just have to have time management, of course, but there's not much distractions really.
Yeah, it's the perfect time for that. It's the perfect time for
It's a
growth
perfect time
development.
to start brewing things.
And you
That's
mentioned
great.
your writing projects that you can't really talk about, but you've got another one that's in, is it post-production now or? Uh,
I did a movie. I wrote and co-directed a film called La Cura. It's called
Akira.
The Cure. I actually did that in between seasons of the Fear the Walking Dead in Mexico. You see, we were in Baja, and I fell in love with Baja, Mexico, Tijuana, Ensenada. Shooting the show, like the locations were like absolutely breathtaking, and it was a Mexico that I haven't seen before. Like the Mexico that I knew was Mexico City, like Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, you know, colors. And like when you think of Mexico, you see colors, but Baja is more Pacific, cold, different colors. It's like what you saw in Fear in Mexico season 2. And I really fall in love with the whole, and the culture there is different. You know, it's a border town, which are like people from the border, they're so used to like traffic, right? And I wrote this film and I shot it with the crew, the same crew that we worked. And you know, I made friends. I know people there now because I lived there for 2 years. So I did that, and I premiered at a festival in Baja, and we won best mid-length short film. We went to Mexico City to project it in this beautiful. So it's been doing like a round of festivals, and then right when we got accepted to the Chicago film. Was in Chicago. I forgot the name because it was pandemic. Pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and we had to cancel. You know, like we went through the whole part of like cancellation kind of thing. So now we are kind of returning into premiering that for everybody, because it really went to a lot of festivals in Mexico. It went to Guadalajara. You know, you just went. It was a really beautiful, fun experience, and now we're working on releasing that for the audience, for everybody to watch. So
Okay,
everybody
good.
should stay tuned.
Yeah, so that's when everything opens up. You're going to kind of re-release it again so that the audience can find it on the open.
Oh yes, for sure. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you see a lot of movies now that have been delayed for the last year and a half, like Black Widow, I guess, The Fast and the Furious, all the
Oh
kind of
my gosh, I
blockbusters
can't
coming
wait
back
to
in.
watch Black Widow. I can't wait. I that's the one thing, you know, I understand not going to restaurants. I really love to cook. So I love cooking. I love where I am. I love the city. But the one thing I missed so much was going to the movies. There's nothing more magical than sitting down in a dark place with people around, watching something special. Like that experience of togetherness, receiving a story for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I miss that kind of thing. I miss the theater. I really miss going to watch the Nutcracker or like anything that you can just go in the dark with a group of people and enjoy. I really, it made me very sad at times. I have to admit, I was like, I really miss people, like restaurants, you know, whatever things. Yeah, I can deal with that, but just this whole thing of like cannot be close to others and enjoy something together was really scary.
Yeah, but at least it looks like that kind of part has turned the corner now. And like you mentioned earlier with the vaccines, things are coming back. I mean, the fact that they're released again, and yeah, so it's
It
good.
was everything. Yeah.
And then just like
Cool.
we're more than halfway through the year now. So do you have any big hope for the end of 2021 and the next 6, 7 months.
Any hopes? In
Yeah,
what way? Like in,
just like
well,
for good
in
things, positive
general,
thoughts, I guess. Yeah.
I really miss our world. I really do. I think we have such a beautiful world. We have beautiful countries in this world, beautiful people, culture. I really miss us as a community and humans of the world. I really miss the whole traveling and chatting with somebody, having a cup of coffee that I've never met before. I really miss just going in the subway and just have like a nice little talk with stranger. I really miss who we are, and this really has changed us. And I hope and I wish that when we come back, we really understand and appreciate each other as much as we deserve. We really are so together, so connected. Like what somebody does really will affect me, even though that person doesn't know me. And I think that if something has happened in this pandemic, it's like, you know, everything we do, we are all going to be affected in a good way or in a bad way. So I hope we come back to an open world as a canvas that it's going to start again in a different note. Whatever we needed to fix it. Whatever we need to learn is the time. Whatever we need to put out there, do it now. Or not wait for things to get better. It's just the better is now. Better is what you make it right now. You want to make it better, it's going to be better. And not take that for granted. I think I really wish for our world to go back and say, and with a big smile, like I think we deserve it. I think we've been through so much, and it's time to grow and to step up for what we deserve, which is like a beautiful world in which we is together.
Thanks, Danay. That's a nice positive note to end on, I think. Thank you so much for the
Thank
interview.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure just chatting about, what's next and how things can be projected in a better way. There's nothing better than that.